What is going on, everybody? Welcome in Tuesday morning edition of the Daily Dime here at FTNFantasy.com. My name is Zac Graham, aka Kawaisenberg DFS, running solo here on our Tuesday. Alex will be back with me tomorrow. Hope everybody had a good Monday night slate. Started hot, started really well for us, and then the worst shooting game of Julian Champagne's season. And Dorian Finney-Smith lost minutes to Dalton Connect and Rui Hachimura and didn't end great. Thought we might have had that 6 for 6 cooking last night. First 4 hit going into the late 2 games. Them's the breaks sometimes. Them's the breaks. Let's jump into tonight's 7-game slate. Don't need to sit around and waste too much time with the small talk here. If you are tuned in this early live or you're watching it on the replay, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Hit the like button. It helps us grow the show. And again, whether you're watching on the YouTube live or you're tuning in from Twitter, you can jump into the live chat here on YouTube while I'm still streaming. Get in that comment section. If you've got any props that you have your eye on, any DFS questions throughout the stream, go ahead and fire them into that live chat. Let's open up Underdog. Let's get to it here. 7-game slate tonight in the association. To be honest, none of these games are super intriguing to me from an actual basketball standpoint, especially now that Tyrese Halliburton is doubtful for the Pacers taking on the Cavs there. But I think we've got a couple spots we can attack. First one I want to go to is actually in that Pacers game. So let's find Timothy John McConnell here and talk about him and the Pacers. Now, Indiana rather. 8-point dogs here at home. 232.5 implied total. And I don't expect TJ McConnell to start here. I think we see Ben Shepherd slide in at the 2. Andrew Nembhard shift over to the 1. You know, you've got other guys in this rotation, in this lineup. Pascal Siakam can initiate the offense in the half court. So I don't think we see TJ jump into the starting group, but we know we don't need huge minutes out of TJ McConnell to get over these types of numbers. And so I have 2 that I like, and I'm leaning towards the points here. But the model loves both the higher than 10.5 points and the higher than 19.5 PRA. And on that PRA number, we're getting a 1.04x multiplier. But let's talk about why I prefer the points to the PRA here. So, like I mentioned, Tyrese Halliburton doubtful here, hamstring tightness. Please, Pacers, just from the third-party perspective, shut this man down. We went through this last year, right, with the lingering injury, him playing limited minutes while he's still injured to make sure he gets to that 65-game mark. Like, I get those incentives, but come on. We need Halliburton healthy, especially the Pacers they are one of the hottest teams in the league right now. I think that one of 4 teams, I believe, at least heading into last night, one of 4 teams that are 7-1 in their last 8 games. And it was Pacers, Thunder, Cavs, Kings. So they've been hot. So we've got TJ. I mentioned both of these props very strong in the FTN fantasy projections this morning. He's projected for 14 points and 23.7 PRA in the model. Got him projected for 24 minutes. That might be a little bit high. Like, if you wanted to say 22, 23 is a more grounded projection there in terms of the minutes, I would hear that. But so just for the transparency, for those of you that don't have access to the site, you're tuning in, watching this free on YouTube or Twitter, 24 minutes is that minutes projection. So, like, I think it is important to note that even if you take that down to 23 or 22 minutes, those points projection doesn't drop 3.5 points, and nor would the PRA. So we also don't have any Halliburton absences this season. He's played in all 40 games for the Pacers. So if we were going to look at McConnell numbers with Halliburton off, we'd have to go back to last year slightly different Pacers team then. So if we just look at the times that TJ McConnell has played 22 or more minutes this season, just 10 of the 40 games, but he's over the PRA number in 6 of those 10, right, where he's playing 22 or more minutes. And that PRA number, again, 19.5 here on Underdog. He's over the points prop of 10.5 in 8 of those 10. So again, a little cookie in favor of going to the points prop if we're attacking one or the other. If we take that sample size down to 20 or more minutes this season from TJ McConnell, 18 games of 20 or more minutes, over in 11 of those 18 with the points, and 4 of those 7 misses, he had 10 points. So right there in 4 of those 7 misses. Then he's over in just 8 of the 18 games on this PRA number when playing 20 or more minutes. And look, TJ already averages 10.4 points per game on the season in 19.3 minutes. And again, we could debate 22 to 24-ish minutes here as a projection for TJ. But, and again, the matchup is not great, and they are 8-point dogs. But he's already averaging essentially this number in less time than we expect here tonight. And the minute ceiling to go up into the upper 20s, of course, is there with a projection around 24. So, and if you do want to look at, again, this matchup is not great on paper. And it's worse this year than it has been in past years. But over in 3 of his last 5 against Cleveland, and actually has done, like, the 3 times he's gone over this 10.5 number, he's kind of soared over, like, into the mid-teens. He's averaging 12 points per game against Cleveland in his last 5. So I do lean towards the points, but you do, again, the model, and I do think 19.5 PRA is just fine. You're getting the 1.04x multiplier, but we can get a little boost from elsewhere if we want to. And again, I lean towards the points. So TJ McConnell, higher than 10.5 points would be the first pick here this morning. Now, let's go to one of the games. I think this may be the game that I want to watch the most here tonight, and it's Suns and Hawks. So this one in Atlanta, but the Suns, 3.5-point road favorites here, 235.5 implied total. We've got a couple Q tags here. We've got Trae Young. And Trae, by the way, just opening up the 12:30 injury report here that we got at the top of the stream. Trae was at shoot-around this morning with that illness tag. Sorry, clearing some messages there. And we also have a Q tag on Bogdan Bogdanović. So both of those guys are projected in right now. And on the Phoenix side, Yusuf Nurkic out. It's illness on the injury report. We know from reporting, I believe it was Evan Sidery of Forbes who first reported that Nurkic is now being held out of the rotation because he's in trade talks with Charlotte, or the Suns rather, in trade talks with Charlotte. Grayson Allen is probable. The rest of this rotation is healthy, and I think that is important here. We're going to go back to a prop that we have attacked over the last month or so. Went heavy on it on Christmas. Went to it late last week with some success. Now, it is a point lower than it was when we last hit Ryan Dunn's lower on his points prop, and that prop is set at 8.5. Now, in the model here this morning, this is not a very strong lean to the lower side of this prop. So this is more my feel rather than following a significant lean from the Prize Picks tool. Projected for 7.8 points in 23 minutes here tonight. On the season, and again, if you've heard me talk about this Ryan Dunn prop over the last couple weeks, kind of a similar story here tonight. He's under this number in 23 of his 34 appearances this season. Of course, when he's been coming off the bench, much less time. He started 18 of his 34 appearances here in his rookie year. He's under this number in half of those 18, right? So 9 of the 18. But I also think it is important to point out that he has played 26 minutes or less in 27 of those 34 games this season. And in those 27 games where he's played 26 minutes or less, he's under this number in 22 of those 27 appearances. Again, with 26 minutes or less. I mentioned a moment ago, we've got him projected for 23 minutes. And I think that is the big difference here between when we last went to this at 9.5 successfully, helped out by foul trouble that slate, if I recall correctly. But this team is now getting healthier, and with the lineup change, which is where we attacked this last week, the first time that Bradley Beal and Yusuf Nurkic went to the bench. Bradley Beal is now getting back towards full minutes even in this bench role. I believe he crested 35 minutes last game, but we are now consistently seeing 30-plus minutes for Beal off the bench. Grayson Allen, I mentioned, is probable. So getting him for sure in this rotation. Again, a non-zero chance he sits with the probable tag, but overwhelmingly likely to play. Royce O'Neal is also back, made his return last game, and he is not on the injury report either. So the fact that we are now full go on the wings here, I still expect the rookie to start, but I do really like the lower than 8.5 points here for Ryan Dunn, because I don't think this profiles as a game where he's going to hit that minutes ceiling. Again, that like 26-minute marker has been pretty darn important for him going over this number, right? More than half of the times he has gone higher than 8.5 points this season have been 26 minutes or more for Ryan Dunn. So we'll take the lower than selection on him. Then we will go to Chicago. And from a fantasy environment perspective, this is the place to be here tonight. You look at this game where the Bulls are 1.5 point home favorites, 241.5 implied total. These two teams stink, but we're not worried about the real basketball implications or how pleasing or aesthetically pleasing this game may or may not be to your basketball watching eye. What I want to do is go to CJ McCollum and his points prop of 19.5. Now, we do have Zion Williamson back in for this game. He is off the injury report. Dejounte Murray, who has been playing through Q tags for the better part of 2 weeks, he's listed probable. Still no Brandon Ingram, and Herb Jones will also miss with that, I believe, labrum injury that Herbie picked up there. So I want to attack CJ McCollum higher than 19.5 points against this Bulls team. The Bulls are one of a handful of teams that you see on a schedule and you're immediately taking a dive into their opponents, what their lines are at, what their projections look like, because this is one of the best matchups in the league for statistically for opponents, right? So CJ McCollum, 19.5 points. We're going higher than the model likes this as well. We've got him projected for 22.1 points here tonight in a 34-minute projection. He is over, CJ McCollum is over this number in 16 of his 27 appearances this season, and he averages 22.4 points per game. Now, of course, this team has not been full strength. I want to say like a game and a half this year, maybe they had everybody, but I actually don't think we've had everybody healthy for this team now that I think back for who was and who wasn't available to start the year, and it's been so inconsistent since then. So like Zion being back does ding the upside of CJ and DeJounte and Eve Nisi, I think, as well. But we still, again, in this game environment, very healthy lean towards a higher than 19.5 points here for CJ McCollum. I mentioned again, he's over in 16 of his 27 appearances this season, including multiple times next to Zion. And I wanted to pull up, I did have a tab, let me find it, with CJ McCollum. Game log with Zion this year. He's actually only played with Zion or next to Zion 5 times this season. So only 5 of his 27 games. And he's only over this number in 2 of those 5. But 3 of those, both times he went higher than, were back in October when we began the season. CJ was healthy. Zion was healthy. Okay. The 2 games since he has come back, and again, Zion, right, played one, sat out a back-to-back. Played one, I think, sat out another back-to-back. CJ has gone under. He's had 13 and 5 points, respectively, in those games. It was not for lack of opportunity. CJ McCollum shot 6 of 29 in those 2 games combined. So I don't expect, CJ to shoot so poorly here tonight, especially against a team like Chicago that gives it up so sweet at nearly every position. So the fact that he's still getting into the mid-teens in shot attempts there, the minutes, or 30 on the 7th against Minnesota, and you see in that game too, he lost some time in the blowout, just 30 minutes in that game, and then he got all the way up to 38 in the surprise victory over Boston 2 days ago, Sunday afternoon. Just 5 of 15 in that game, though. So, like, if we've got the still 38-minute ceiling in a matchup like this against Chicago, I'm going to go with the model here, higher than 19.5 points for CJ McCollum. Now, I did see, I see Dalton in here, CG, the G stands for guru. Well, we'll see, man. I mean, there's just 2 for 4 on the picks last night, so hopefully these all come through, all of these green out for us here tonight. I know we got some stocks picks right before I came on stream, so there's one that I want to see that we've been attacking that I want to go back to if we've got it. It's in the same game, and boom, there it is. Deonte Murray, higher than 1.5 steals. So for what it's worth, those 3 picks we already talked about, I have that in as a 3-pick entry this morning. Perfectly fine to run that, but I want to see if we can get up to 6 picks here on this Tuesday morning edition of the Daily Dime. So Deonte Murray, again, this is one we've talked about at length multiple times this season and in recent weeks. We've got him projected, and let me double check this here. I think it's over 2.5 steals projected for Deonte here against the Bulls. Yeah, 2.72 steals is the projection for Deonte Murray here this morning in the FTN fantasy projections. Another 34-minute projection for him, just like his backcourt mate there in McCollum. He's over this 1.5 steals line in 13 of his 23 appearances this season. And he's averaging 2.3 steals per game on the year. So getting this Deonte Murray steals prop in a game environment like this, I love it. We'll get Deonte higher than 1.5 steals. Now, let's see. Atlanta. Okay. Dyson Daniels, 2.5 steals. Let's see if we have stocks as well for that or for Deonte. Okay, there's Dyson Daniels, 1.1x 3.5 stocks. And no DJ stocks. So, I know we've talked about, when I say we, Alex mostly talks about the stocks being when we are close on between like a steals prop and a stocks prop, or a blocks prop and a stocks prop. That stocks, other things being equal, is the one that we like to lean towards because NBA statisticians are less than 100% accurate. I can guarantee you that from our charting escapades here at FTN Data. Frequently, there will be a play that you, me, and all of your friends who don't watch hoops would all be like, yeah, that's a steal, not a block. So, when you go to the stocks, you kind of insulate yourself from some of that variance between statisticians here in the NBA, right? There are 30 humans, well, more than 30 because they have assistants and all that stuff. But that takes away a little bit of the risk that you incur just going to a steals or a blocks prop. That being said, I think the steals is stronger enough to me. We've got him projected for 3.13 steals here this morning and 3.95 stocks on the morning. So for me, the steals prop is it with Dyson Daniels. And again, that matchup against Phoenix, another, 235.5 implied total there with a 3.5 point spread. Yeah, we'll go Dyson Daniels higher than 2.5 steals and follow the model on that one. So we need one more here to get to 6 picks. And again, bear with me. This is the first time I am looking at these boards here this morning. Got Shea, less than 1. Paul George, Tyrese Maxiell. Whew. Let's take a look at Maxey, 1.5 steals. Because I'm looking at a Maxey steals projection, and this is a 38-minute projection. And maybe in a game where you're 11.5-point home dogs against one of the best teams in the league, maybe a 38-minute projection, even for a guy like Maxey who consistently plays in that range, maybe it's a little hot. But we're also getting 1.11x on this Tyrese Maxiell steals prop. The higher than, rather. I imagine when I pull up this opponent data. Yeah, see, Thunder allow the least amount of steals in the NBA per game this season. So that's not overly encouraging. Maxey averaging 2.1 steals per game on the year. He's over this number in 18 of his 31. So, like, I think I'm going to lean towards the game log, the very strong projection, right? Because the FTN fantasy model is factoring in the matchup here. And the fact that we're getting 1.11x, I'm at least going to slide this in as a placeholder, and we'll see if we find anything else that's a little bit more advantageous. Alex Caruso is back tonight for what it's worth. That's going to affect some of those secondary pieces, the value guys from a DFS perspective. It's going to help them a little bit more. I'm just running through these quickly. Make sure there's nothing crazy here. Fox 1.5 steals against Milwaukee. Got no Malik Monk there tonight as of about 30 minutes ago. Giddey in that game across from DeJounte, maybe? And let's see what we've got for blocks before we call this a sixer here. Mobley 1.5 blocks. Turner's 0.9. Brooke, close, but still not going to beat that Maxey number. Peyton Watson, if Aaron Gordon was out again. But he's back. Ayton, Claxton. I'm not sure anything on the surface here is going to beat that Maxey number. If anybody else sees any props, no free throws yet, no fantasy points. All right, so this is going to be the 6-pick play here this morning. TJ McConnell higher than 10.5 points. Ryan Dunn lower than 8.5 points. CJ McCollum higher than 19.5 points. His teammate Deonte Murray higher than 1.5 steals. Dyson Daniels higher than 2.5 steals. And Tyrese Maxiell higher than 1.5 steals. That is a 1.11x multiplier. I just got reminded I've got a meeting in 5 minutes. So let's accelerate this. We'll go ahead. We'll put that in as a 6-pick. And if you just want to run 3, I mentioned that the 3 points props we talked about, I already have in entries, and I'm totally fine running that. I might run the 3 steals together as well. And if I have to say on the fly what my favorite 3 picks are here, Daniels, Murray. It's close between McConnell and Dunn. I'm going to run both of those 3 picks. But Nerf gun to my head right now, lean McConnell higher than 10.5, stronger than Ryan Dunn, lower than 8.5. I also did go through what Prize Picks had to offer when I looked about an hour ago in terms of their fantasy score prop. So it's Tuesday. If you play on Prize Picks, right, of course you can use the Prize Picks tool here at FTN Fantasy. But 3 fantasy point props over there. You'd be unsurprised to hear that I like TJ McConnell over 23.5 fantasy score there on Prize Picks. Kelly Oubre higher than 26.5. Even against OKC, that line is a bit too low. And actually like Ben Simmons under 29 fantasy score with Q tags on D'Angelo Russell, Cam Johnson, right? Those guys appear to be returning here tonight. even if they weren't. Wouldn't hate the under there. But if those guys do play, then that Simmons fantasy line is like 3.5, maybe even 4 points too high. So there's a couple Prize Picks fantasy score props. All right. Quickly here. Let's go. I believe we've got an ownership run for the morning. Let's take a peek before I get out of here. I apologize for the rushed nature exiting the stream here today. But let's take a look. DraftKings GPP scores. Keon Ellis, and this makes sense because ownership has not caught up to the news. Because if this run went right before I went live, this is right after the Malik Monk news. So Keon Ellis should step back into a starting role here tonight against Milwaukee for the Kings. The Kings, even without Monk, just 2.5 point road dogs here, 228.5 implied total, 4,100 for Keon Ellis. That ownership number is going to skyrocket compared to what it's at now. I imagine he will still keep a very strong tournament score with that price on DraftKings. You can see the model loves the Kings in general here. Sabonis and Fox not getting a ton of love from the field. Model really likes them here against the Bucks, and I'm inclined to agree with that close spread. Good matchup, shorthanded Kings. SGA 10-5 makes sense. TJ McConnell makes sense. But of course, TJ getting 24%, the model still loves it, even in the tough matchup. So again, GPP scores are one factor, one thing we consider when we're making our plays by the time lock hits here tonight. So these numbers change. They fluctuate throughout the day, of course, and with more news. We aren't waiting on any outstanding injury reports from any teams on back-to-backs. I don't believe we have any teams on the second end here tonight. So we're not waiting on that. But, of course, a couple Q tags, etc. Ownership-wise, Mathurin 5,800 with no Halliburton, 27% coming in tops here, 12-2 for Jokic. It's one thing I do think we have enough value already on the day with a $3,200 Ben Shepherd, a $4,200 Scoot Henderson, $4,300 Bogdan Bogdanovic, assuming he plays. You've got cheap access to the Atlanta centers who will split time. That OKC value that we've been attacking a little bit with your Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Dort, Wallace, that dries up a little bit with Alex Caruso off the injury report here tonight. I'm still more than fine to play the two presumed starters there in Dort and Case and Wallace. And you can see the field getting to Dort right around 14% of the time at 4,100, and he's guard forward eligible. So that makes a lot of sense to me. See other factors. I mean, in terms of your spend ups, it's Giannis for me, I think. Just a $700 difference between he and Jokic. But Aaron Gordon is back. Dallas is shorthanded, the Nuggets opponent here tonight. You can see, at least in the DraftKings projections here, Giannis $700 cheaper and about 2 DK points shy in his projection from where Jokic is projected. Similar ceilings. So I think right now, and the model does as well, I lean slightly towards Giannis compared to the Joker. But then again, you've got the very strong tournament scores on SGA, Sabonis. Trey at 10K, a little bit tougher for me to get there. Booker on the other side of that game, Durant on the other side of that game are fine. Both around 20% on DraftKings. And if we sort by the value ranks here, McConnell, Keon Ellis, and Andrew Nembhard at 53. Again, that also makes some sense, even in the tough matchup. Over there on FanDuel, again, I know this is abbreviated, unsurprisingly, Keon Ellis up near the top. Nick Vucevic still hovering around 8K, also getting some love in the model at low ownership. Dejounte Murray, 8,300 against Chicago, makes some sense to me. 7,600 for Garland, low ownership. In terms of the value over there, Keon Ellis, McConnell, DJ, DeAndre Ayton, 6,200 back tonight off the injury report against Brooklyn. I get it. Guard forward eligible Kelly Oubre, even in a tough matchup. I get it. Nembhard, 57. All that makes sense. Ownership-wise, Mathurin, 40% in his own tier here. Denny as well, 6,900. It's very nice, 33%. Nothing really standing out as crazy high ownership here. I think I'm inclined on FanDuel at that ownership to fade Mathurin. But we'll see. Again, this will all shift. It's off right now because we don't have ownership catching up to that Kings news. Keon Ellis is not going to be as low owned here, and of course that has trickle-down effects throughout the day. So I need to run here. A little bit late for this meeting, so apologies for running off so quick. But we got our 6-pick play in. You got a couple Prize Picks fantasy score props in there as well. Of course, our FTN fantasy subscribers. Any other picks that I find throughout the day, those will go in the Pick'em Games channel. And everybody who's playing the DFS slates tonight, I will see you in the NBA DFS channel closer to lock this evening. Appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with me here on the Tuesday edition of the Daily Dime. Alex is back tomorrow breaking down what I believe is a double-digit game slate, so it will be a busy one on Wednesday. Enjoy your Tuesday, NBA, everybody. I will do the same. See you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel on your way out. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.